It's time to talk controllers on Gaming Talk. Hello everybody and welcome to a kind of reboot of an old series I used to do on this channel a long time ago, and that is Gaming Talk. This is the show where I talk about all things video game related. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so bear with me as we try to figure out what the direction of this series is going to go, but we'll figure it out eventually. My name is Chris, and today I decided to do this video because I've been bouncing back and forth between all three of my current gen consoles, and it really got me thinking about controllers, especially because switching between two of my three mainline controllers kind of messes me up sometimes. It can be a little confusing. But it got me thinking about, we oftentimes think about how powerful a console is or what exclusives it has, stuff like that. But oftentimes the thing that's the most important in many respects is the controller. Because the controller is going to be really what makes or breaks the gaming experience for that console. If you love a game but really hate the controller, it could cause a negative problem. If you love a controller, it's probably going to help you out. So today we're going to take a look at the three current gen controllers. Now I will preface, obviously with the Nintendo Switch, the main controller is the Joy-Con. I'm not looking at a Joy-Con, I'm looking at the Nintendo Pro Controller. So traditional gamepad controllers. So we're going to talk about all three. I'm going to share my thoughts on all three, and some positives and negatives to each one. So I'm going to start off with the controller that I use the most because it is for my quote-unquote primary console, and that is the Xbox One controller. So this is the Sea of Thieves limited edition controller. It came out a couple years ago. I like this one because it's got like a cool gold trigger. It has this glow-in-the-dark skull in the middle. This is a really nice design. And to me, the Xbox One controller is kind of the perfect controller. I have big hands, as you can see, so this controller fits pretty much perfectly in my hands. It feels comfortable. The fins on the side give you a great place to keep your palms. The thumbsticks being alternated and not symmetrical like on the DualShock feels really good, especially when you're controlling a first-person style game. Of course, with first-person shooters or any kind of shooter, having a trigger is nice. So these are nicely shaped triggers. They have some feedback in them. The buttons are clicky. The thumbsticks are well made. They have a good grip to them. I just love the Xbox controller, and they've done nothing but continue to improve upon this design over the years. The best version of this controller, at least in my opinion, is the Xbox Elite. I have not gotten a chance to get the Elite 2. I plan on it eventually, but right now I just have a traditional controller. I have a bunch of them actually, and it's a great controller. I really enjoy it. It feels good in my hands. It's definitely my favorite out of the mainline controllers. The thing that's interesting about this controller, unlike other mainline controllers, this is the only one where when you first get it out of the box, it does not come with a rechargeable battery pack. You actually have to purchase that rechargeable battery pack separately. And that has positives and negatives to it. The positive is that if your battery dies, the controller doesn't die with it. So you can replace the battery pack or use AA's if you really want to, which I know putting AA's in a controller in 2020 seems pretty date, but and if your battery pack dies, you can get another one and swap it in. Or in a pinch, you can use AA. So that's good. And of course, the negative is, at least until you purchase a play and charge kit, which is what comes with the rechargeable battery, you have to use batteries. There are definitely positives and negatives to that situation. I do have a play and charge kit, and I have a rechargeable battery in my controller, and I will say it does the job pretty well. I use this controller every day because even though I haven't been playing a lot of games on my Xbox, it's my primary, I use it to watch videos, I use it to watch streaming apps, all kinds of stuff, and every now and again I'll pop into a game. So I use this controller an awful lot, And I can usually get through 3-4 days without charging it really. So it does a good job, and the rechargeable battery is definitely the way to go on these. So if you do not have a rechargeable battery for your Xbox One controller, highly recommend picking one up. Next up, we're going to go to the probably most popular controller of these three, and that is the DualShock 4. This, of course, is the controller for the PlayStation 4. And I do have to say, the DualShock 4 is a definite improvement over the DualShock 3 for the PlayStation 3. The main things I like about this one, first of all, it definitely has a better build quality. The DualShock 3 I had a number of problems with the PS3. This one feels a lot better in your hands. The triggers are much more trigger-like. Before, they just had the R2 and L2 buttons, they were just buttons. So if you're trying to play like a first-person shooter, it felt a little awkward. It didn't feel quite as natural as something like the Xbox's triggers. But they made these much more trigger-like, which is good. The thumbsticks feel nice. They feel pretty solid, have nice rubber on them. They are symmetrical, and I don't think that's anything that's ever going to change about PlayStation controllers. Some people really like thumbsticks being symmetrical. To me, I've gotten so used to the off-center thumbsticks, I prefer it that way. But the dual pad, the D-pad is good. You've got the nice face buttons, classic PlayStation face buttons. And then this touchpad that really doesn't do much. There's only a couple games that really utilize it. But, I mean, it's a good controller, I will say. The one major negative that I have about this thing, and especially since I've been using my PlayStation a lot, because I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 Royal, the battery life on this is not good. I can get maybe 2 days, maybe 2.5 if I'm lucky, without having to charge this thing, which is nothing compared to my Xbox, or especially the last controller that I'm going to talk about. So the battery life is not great on this thing. Granted, it is a smaller controller, and it has a built-in battery. This is also an older one. I got this with my Destiny the Taken King PlayStation 4, so it's not exactly a brand new PlayStation 4 controller, but again, you know, I expect controllers to have a little bit better battery life than this one does. So I like this controller. It's a good controller. Not my favorite, but I can make do to play some excellent games on PlayStation with this controller, so it works, gets the job done. Last controller, and low-key this one, it's hard not to say this one might be the best of the three. It's really good. It's really, really good. And that is the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. So I had a Pro Controller for the Wii U, which to me was very much reminiscent of the Xbox 360 controller, but it had the symmetrical thumbsticks. This controller, I feel Nintendo took what worked about that controller and then what works about the Xbox and the PlayStation controllers and just improved upon it. It feels really good. It has a very similar feel to the Xbox One controller, because it's kind of a bigger controller. You have the asymmetrical thumbsticks, which again, I'm a big fan of. You have triggers. These triggers feel a lot more like the Xbox One controller's triggers. Not quite as indented or as trigger-like. They're kind of set up similar to the PlayStation ones, but they have a similar feel to the Xbox. So it's kind of a hybrid in between. Of course, it's got all the buttons that you need for your Switch. You've got the plus button, the minus button, the capture button, so you can capture photos and video, the home button, a really nice clicky D-pad. It's just an all-around great controller. And to be honest, if you have a Switch and you use it at home on a fairly regular basis, this is kind of a must. It's a really good controller. It actually does give you some benefit if you're playing a game like Mario Kart, where, yeah, you can play it with the Joy-Con, but if you use this, it does feel a lot more natural if you enjoy that more traditional control scheme rather than a steering wheel or however you want to do it. So if you like playing more traditional style games on the Switch, I highly recommend this. The biggest thing that I love about this controller is the battery life. I haven't charged this thing in like 2 weeks. I just had to charge it today after not charging it for 2 weeks. The battery is that good on this controller. It's fantastic. And it charges pretty quickly too. So definitely this has a premium feel to it. And it is kind of a luxury sort of, because your Switch comes with the Joy-Cons, and that's kind of viewed as the primary controller for the Switch. So this is kind of an extra, but it's an extra that's totally worth it if you're kind of a hardcore gamer. So I like all three controllers. I think they're really good. Personally, if I had to say which ones I like the most, I like the Xbox controller the most, but that's mostly because I'm used to it. It just has a really nice natural feel to it, and it feels really good, especially when you're playing first-person shooters. This controller has been optimized for first-person shooters. I'm also very glad that Microsoft is really not changing much for the Xbox Series X. The controller has maybe, I think, one additional button, but otherwise it looks pretty much the same. So Microsoft definitely taking the "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" motif with the Xbox controller. Definitely a great controller. Second place has got to be the Switch Pro controller. Feels great, has incredible battery life, feels like a premium product. It's really, really good. So highly recommend picking one of these up if you are a Switch owner and do not have one yet. And yes, last I am going to put the DualShock 4. Even though I do like the DualShock 4, I think it's a good controller. It made some definite improvements over the DualShock 3. But again, I don't think it really stacks up to the other two controllers. It's good, but the battery life's not great. It just doesn't have quite the same feel. And I know it's not supposed to have exactly the same feel, but like certain games don't feel as good on this controller as they do on the Xbox and the Switch. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the three main controllers for the Xbox One, the Switch, and the PlayStation 4. And that's going to do it for the first reboot, quote-unquote, episode of Gaming Talk. Hope you enjoyed it. I might do more of these later on where I discuss maybe some of my favorite games or things I like in certain games. It's definitely going to be more of a discussion-based show rather than showing clips and stuff, because again, I have limited editing abilities right now because I do not have a PC to edit and import footage on right now. So it's mostly going to be me talking. I apologize, but that's what I got to work with, so I'm going to do the most of what I got. If you want to see more or have a topic you want me to discuss or share my thoughts on in terms of gaming, please leave a comment and let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Use the hashtag GamingTalk here or on Twitter. Tweet at BigCTV Show, and I can check out your ideas. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Gaming Talk. Bye.